All right, guys, today's video is all about chipping, a standard chip shot, which is probably the most underrated shot in golf, without any question, in my opinion. Um, this is a freebie. I mean, you guys should be getting up and down from off the edge of the green way, way more than you actually are. Just think about that for a second. If you could get up and down 50, 60, 70% more than you are right now from just off the edge of the green, what would that do to your scores? So today we're going to talk about how to chip. We're going to talk about why we chip. And I'm going to give you a little system that's going to help you with your distance control. And I'll give you maybe one or two simple drills just to kind of package this whole thing together. But before we get started, if you've not subscribed to my channel, I'd certainly appreciate the support. Go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell button. It'll give you an alert whenever I go ahead and submit a new video. So I really appreciate the support. So without further ado, let's talk about chipping. First of all, its definition, right? Its definition. A chip is a shot where the ball spends less time in the air, more time on the ground. The way I've always looked at this shot is a putting motion with a lofted club, right? A lot of people don't putt with loft, unfortunately. They're doing a lot more. They're making a mountain out of a molehill. So it's very important to understand that if we can use a putting motion, we're going to be more consistent without any question. So what do I see? Let's talk about the common faults that I see. The first thing I see is people grip the club traditionally in the fingers. Now remember, if you grip the club in the fingers, which I highly recommend for hitting full shots, it increases your ability to leverage the golf club and also your ability to rotate the golf club. So if you've got leverage and rotation, that's obviously a great thing because you can create a lot of speed, but we want our hands to be pretty passive here, just like putting. So what we want to do is we want to grip the club more in the palms like we do a putter, because it limits your ability to leverage and rotate the golf club. And the less mobility we have in the club face, the more stability we have, especially when we putt and chip, the more consistent we're going to be. Okay, so how do we grip the club in the palm? What I do is I have a pretty straightforward setup where I grip the club parallel to the ground, so it forms a plane between the shaft and my forearm. That automatically puts it into the palm of my hand. And then what I do is I go ahead and just bring my elbows in and kind of feel like they're tucked against my rib cage. And then I bend forward from my hips. And the one thing you're going to notice is that I'm making the club the same length as my putter. Most of you are going to want to chip up too high. Maybe you choke down an inch. I highly recommend making the club the same length. So go ahead and measure your putter up against your 9-iron, for example, and then make sure that you're placing your hands on the club the same length. It's 34 inches, and make the club 34 inches. It really doesn't matter if your trail hand is down here on the metal part of the shaft. Okay, so here I am with my setup. You can see how vertical that is, and I'm looking down, and it looks kind of weird to me because what I'm actually seeing is I'm seeing the heel of the golf club up in the air. Can you see that? So it looks as if I'm actually presenting the toe to the ground. Well, that has some advantages. Obviously, there's less club that can grab and get stuck in the ground, first and foremost. And also, it somewhat deadens the strike, okay? I know a lot of you have chipped and you see that ball pinging off the club face and tearing across the green. So if you're playing particularly on fast greens, which these greens are very, very quick, hitting it off the toe of the club definitely has its advantage, okay? If we get the club more vertical, what you're going to find is your orbit is going to be a lot more linear. It just means the golf club essentially can be almost dropped down on top of the golf ball. Once we start to get it around the corner here, we get a little bit too flat, a little deep. We start to create a more circular motion. You know, very easy from that position, because the club is a little more behind us, to come in and naturally hit more behind the golf ball. It actually requires a lot more body rotation, more horizontals, to get the club out in front of us. We don't want to be moving the body excessively when we chip. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and hit to the second flag, get the club in the palm, tuck my elbows, tilt from my hips. I'm going to play the ball just a little bit back of center. Don't jam it opposite your right foot. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. And of course, that just looks like a putting motion, doesn't it? Here we go. That was right where I wanted it. All right. There we go. I think most of you would give that one to me. So that's a 9-iron, okay? I just chipped that to about a foot from the hole. And what I like to do is understand how the ball rolls, right? So if you're an effective motion, if you've got a pretty good technique, you're going to get the ball rolling. If your hands are too far behind the golf ball, if the weight's too far back, you're going to add loft. You're not going to get roll at all. So important to understand when we set up to it, we need to make sure that that right shoulder is steep, okay? We want to get that right shoulder up. We don't want it too low. We want it up, okay? A wonderful drill is to go left hand low, okay? So you can see here, I know a lot of you putt left hand low, and if you do, go ahead and chip left hand low too. Matt Fitzpatrick does pretty darn well chipping and pitching that way. And the reason he does so well is it steepens the right shoulder, which increases that descent angle and kind of gets the nose moving forward, right? Which obviously increases your odds of hitting and brushing the grass in front of the golf ball. So go ahead and do this little drill where you actually shift your hands left hand low, steepen this right shoulder. You want about 70% of your weight forward, okay? And then I'm really starting to feel like my nose is kind of opposite my left toe, just to give you a reference point. So you can actually get all that pressure forward the correct way, okay? As opposed to a lot of people, they tend to jam their hips forward. Of course, that shallows the right shoulder. It drops it too much. Now I'm going to have the club going around the corner and I'm going to hit too far behind the golf ball. All right, I'm going to give you a little drill here to work on. Try and keep this real simple. Just use one of these alignment rods. You can use a shaft as well. And what I like to do is I like to just gently step on it right here, okay? Put it opposite my right toe. And again, I'm going to feel like my ball is slightly back of center, okay? Even if it's in the center, that probably isn't going to hurt you at all. I just don't want it way, way back in your stance. I don't want it stuck back here, okay? And again, we're going to work on left hand low initially, just kind of get that feeling that really gets that right shoulder up, just like this, okay? And then we're going to switch hands, keeping the right shoulder in the same position. And then I'm going to go ahead and brush the grass here opposite my left toe. So my objective is to hit the ball or feel like I'm hitting a ball that's over here, if that makes any sense. That ball's opposite my left toe. I'm setting up here. Another wonderful drill is to feel like you're hitting a ball that's way out in front of where you're addressing the golf club, okay? Don't shift your swing center forward. Just feel like your arms are extending just a little bit more past the golf ball, okay? And that's going to get that descent angle further forward, just like this, okay? Start here, just like that, okay? And that's going to have my hands remain pretty low through the golf ball. So a great drill for you. You can just walk yourself up and down the alignment rod, put the ball in the center, brush the grass opposite your left toe, one after another, after another, after another. Then go ahead and get this thing out of here. You don't need that anymore, right? And go ahead and do exactly the same thing. So you've got to get that flat spot in the right place. Very, very important. So I've got 3 flags here. I've got one close, one kind of in the middle of the green, and one all the way in the back. I chip with 3 different clubs. I use a 54, a 9-iron, and a 7-iron. On most greens, if you've got decent technique, a sand wedge is going to be about 1 part carry, 1 part roll with a chip. Remember, a chip, we don't want that club getting really above the knees. That's what kind of defines that motion. Once it starts to get to the waist, we're pitching. That's 10 to 40 yards. Chipping is going to be fringe to around 10 yards at the very most. So with that in mind, if you look at this first pin, I would have all of you all day long go ahead and putt this because it's nice and smooth. But you know how it is sometimes. It's not quite as smooth short of the green. We've got some grass that's kind of bumpy. We don't know how it's going to react. So sure enough, I'm going to go ahead and pick a spot right in the green that I like to call my hot spot. A hot spot's just your intermediate target. That's what all good players do. Most recreational golfers are looking more where they want the ball to finish, not where they want it to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my hot spot there, do one little practice stroke. Imagine I'm going to land my ball in my hot spot. I know I've got a club that's probably going to do a good job for me here. There we go. Not too bad. That's going to work very, very nicely. So I've got another pin out there, which I hit the first one. That was my 9-iron, okay? That's the one I hit when I first started the video. And guess what? The beauty of this is I'm really not going to have to increase my motion. I can go ahead and pretty much make the same length swing. And because I've got less loft, I'm going to get more roll. So think about it. Just have an open mind. I mean, typically what I would see here is I would see someone grab their sand wedge and hit different distance shots with their sand wedge, you know. And if you're a really good golfer, I get it. I completely understand. But bear in mind, the longer the swing, the more margin for error, the more speed. I mean, we're going to go 20 miles an hour from knee-high to knee-high. That speed goes to 30 and above and really starts to increase. Anytime you're having to create more motion with more speed, there's more margin for error, right? Definitely. So for you people viewing this in England, which is where I'm from, you're going to appreciate this one. You Americans are probably going to stop at this point and say, ah, this isn't for me. How about chipping with a 7-iron? Okay, now there's a little caveat here. You need to make sure that the greens are big enough. If you're playing on very small greens, for example, a 7-iron isn't going to work, because a 7-iron is going to be a 5-part roll, even possibly a 6-part roll golf club. So the way I look at this, just to help you memorize how far the ball rolls with each club, is I start at a 6-iron. 6-iron is going to be 1-part carry, 6-part roll, and I'm going to work my way down. More loft, okay, or less loft, more roll. So 7-iron is 5 parts roll, 8-iron 4 parts roll, 9-iron, we've already done that, 3 parts roll, pitching wedge, guys, 1-part carry, 2-part roll. And again, we talked about the sandwich, about a 1-on-1 ratio. So if you haven't memorized that, go ahead and write it down. Go out to your local driving range, get on the chipping green and put this to work. Look at how far you're carrying the distance to your hot zone, okay? And then try and measure out where it's actually finishing. You'll be shocked at how accurate this is. And again, when I'm going ahead and surveying a shot, that's what I'm looking at, right? I'm looking at where I want to land it, where I want the ball to finish. I don't want to fly this all the way into the green. I'm going to use my 7-iron. All right, now these things running almost 13, 12, 5 on the stimp meter. I'm probably not going to do 5 parts roll here. It's probably going to roll quite a bit more. But I just want to demonstrate how easy this is. This is my 7-iron. I'm going to go through exactly the same thing. And just watch where this thing ends up. There we go. A little bit firm. These things are like greasy, super greasy greens. That one's going to be a lot better. Get in the hole. Oh, there you go. So keep at it, okay? It takes a while to get used to having the ball rolling that much. I completely get it, okay? But try and keep an open mind. So let's just review this, okay? Putt with loft. Don't stand there moving your knees and your hips and your shoulders with a traditional grip which leverages the golf club, okay? We don't need the club swinging like a windshield wiper around our body when your objective is to hit it about 5 feet, right? The roll is going to take care of the rest. Get that club in a vertical orbit. Make sure you grip it in the palm of your hands, not in the fingers. Right shoulder, steeper. Don't get it too shallow. Ball center to slightly back of center. Don't play it opposite your back foot, okay? Just back of center is great. 70% forward with your weight, making sure your nose feels like it's opposite your left toe. Start off using an alignment rod, brushing the grass opposite your left toe. We want to make sure we've got some pretty good cadence too, okay? So we're backing through, kind of a one-on-one feel in terms of the rhythm of your motion. 1, 1, 1, nice and soft. I don't want to see any hit reflex here. Important to understand. So I hope that helps. It's pretty comprehensive. But again, try and keep this as simple as you can. I know you're going to chip really, really well if you work on this. So have fun with it, okay? We'll talk to you soon.